review of their work plan, that is sort of fits what their capacity is. There may be things that fall off the work plan. They'll be coming back to council to say, these things are falling off our work plan, we don't think they're achievable. Council, are we messing up with your priorities? We'll go through an iteration of that, but the goal is to get sort of the work plan in concert with the staff capacity and make sure that those two are realistic, that we're not burning out staff in the process of trying to achieve projects that they're not capable of completing, but also in that process we're looking for cost savings. We're not going to complete a project this year, let's get it off the books and let's get that sort of money elsewhere. And so, Brian, do you want to sort of speak to that point?
I think you summed it up fairly well. The discussions that we had revolve around a work plan presentation to council in the 23rd, I believe it is, of March. And from there we will sit down with council, look at all department heads, all departments' priorities, and look back at the budget, see what our priorities should be or what we think they should be, and have a good discussion with council and what can we handle, what can we be effective at, and perhaps there are some things we are doing that maybe we shouldn't be doing. So that is, we're working on that right now.
Doug, you comment?
I think you're getting into the heart of one of the critical planning issues, longer term planning issues around resources and what's the baseline freight that we carry over the taxes. So if you look at the strategic priorities that are identified in our work today, we've got fire hall, community center, and infrastructure around roads and sewage. Roads and sewage, there's a plan for a commission or a committee or a task force or something where there's in part volunteer experts, but there will be engineering expertise that's required to be hired and paid for as part of getting those projects shovel ready. You can't get to the next stage. So that money's been identified and come from surplus. In the community hall or community center discussions, there's monies supposed to come from surplus for project management, fundraising, type of efforts. This is in addition to municipal staff. We can reprioritize municipal staff as well. Fire hall's got its own separate component as well. It's got dollar reserves to pay for its work. But what I think is needing some elaboration and discussion is we've got a healthy dent that we're taking in these surpluses in this current time. It's correct me if I'm wrong, I think the surpluses are going to drop by 25%. Pardon me?
I'll agree with you.
Okay.
I didn't do that calculation. They did.
Yeah, but they don't go back up unless we either increase taxes in future years or reduce services or sell something. In this case, we've only got a few parcels of community lands. But that's a healthy chunk. In terms of being a new councilor, okay, wow, this is how we spend our money. We've got a bank account, we're going to spend 25% of it in 2009 in order to essentially borrow the funds to pay for strategic initiatives. And so that's, getting feedback from the community on that particular point is important. And the other piece of it is, I haven't heard much discussion here yet. I'd love to get it going this today and the month ahead. We've got a 4.5% tax increase proposed. And depends where your property assessments will go, but it's still 4.5 is going to be your bottom line increase as a taxpayer. So those are two consequences that if you don't raise the 4.5% this year, we catch up later if we're going to deliver those types of services.
Or do you drop off people's pet projects?
You need to drop off projects and drop off services. The other thing is, on one hand, you want better snow removal and emergency services and firewall will fall down in an earthquake. And the other hand, you want lower taxes, which you don't need up.
No easy answers. But it's a good question, and we'll be back to this because we'll be talking about the budgets for special projects on Monday. And this is sort of a question of what can we afford at this point? What should we afford? What's important to afford? Okay, just a second there. I just want to make sure we had Ian, and I Captain just told me that.
No, this is an open statement. It's not really specific to the budget.
Ian and then Paul and
Thank you. I think it's just fantastic that Dave was the chair of the OCP. I was there and did that 30 years ago. And it's absolutely essential that the members of that committee be a cross-section. And I gather there might be some political problems. I'm wondering if it's going to be a political decision as to who will be on that committee, or whether Dave Wiki will have a substantial, if not a final decision on who is going to be on that committee, because that is extremely important.
There is some clarity. Council has sort of agreed to a process of populating that steering committee. Dave suggested 8 members. He also suggested a process by which we would create council. First of all, council appointed Dave. So that's council's sort of control. So there's 1 member of the steering committee is Dave. Dave suggested that there be a process by which the remaining 7 people are appointed by 2 different bodies. The first one is what he calls a selection committee. So that selection committee would be sort of created by council in discussion with Dave. There'd be 2 members. He's looking for what he called august members of the community, sort of, you might say, above reproach, with the broad view, don't have sort of a partisan alignment, who the community would feel really sort of speak for the whole community. I mean, that might be a tall bill to fill. Nonetheless, what I like about it is the sincerity that Dave brings to that enterprise. That is his style. So I get great comfort from that, and I think council got great comfort from that, because I think our first impression was we want to hold control of that. I mean, we were just elected back in November. We're a pretty broad council. Shouldn't we just do all the selecting? And Dave said, no, this is a better way. So anyways, that group, that selection group will appoint 4 members to the 8-person group. Dave will be sort of the chair of that selection committee, and there'll be probably 2 others. So anyway, so that goes ahead. Council will appoint those selection committee members. So that's 1. We get 4 from that group. And council's already appointed 1, that's Dave. 3 others. We will, when we see who's on that, who the selection committee appoints, then we'll sort of look at that and essentially consider our own priorities in terms of maybe balance or whatever, to sort of flesh that out. So we will appoint council in conversation with Dave 3-1. And that's how we'll come up with the steering committee.
Thank you.
Barbara, and then we'll go to those comment forms. Yes.
Well, by the way, I submitted a comment form. Please ignore it because I've already asked that question. But I wanted to pick up on what James said. I think that clearly greenhouse gases are the #1 issue facing the world, and I realize that people are going to consider that very important. There is another related issue, which is water. And I've been here when we've had water shortages in the summer. So I have basically 2 questions. One is there any possibility of requiring new builders to put in cisterns whenever they build new property to collect the rainwater, so that can be used in the summer when there could be a water shortage, especially with more stress being put on our water supplies with new people coming on island? Second, with the community center, are there plans to make that to a LEED building? I'd like to see it platinum, but I would settle for gold.
Okay. Let's start with the water question. I think, Brian, you've been in discussions at the subdivision level about rainwater harvesting?
Right, we've been discussing with the ministry rainwater harvesting with some developers. There are some provincial regulations that the system is really not set up to handle this. I think the politicians at this point are speaking kind of thing they want to do